There is no prospect for a fair trial in the United States. The reasons are manyfold. First of all, Julian has been charged under the Espionage Act. This is the first time a publisher has been charged under this act, which is from 1917, during the First World War. The purpose of this act was never meant for publishers. It was never meant in the context of journalistic activity. He is accused of receiving information from Chelsea Manning, possessing it and publishing it to the public. And that information was of the highest public interest, involving evidence of state-sponsored criminality. So that means that the United States has charged him under a statute that does not allow a public interest defense. He is not allowed to say, well, I published because it evidenced crimes. He is exposed to 175 years imprisonment. There's no public interest defense under the Espionage Act. And this is also the country that has plotted to assassinate Julian. So naturally, there is no prospect for either a fair trial or Julian being safe in that country. It's a mistake to treat this case as a legal case. It is a political case. It is a political persecution that is pursued through lawfare by using the law to imprison a man for political reasons. And so any suggestion that the US judicial system will be able to treat Julian fairly is an impossibility. Well, the British legal system and political system has been a accessory in the persecution of Julian. Anyone who looks at this case and at his treatment objectively understand that administrative excuses are being used to treat Julian in a cruel and unusual manner that no other person has been exposed to. The simple fact that Julian has been in the harshest prison in the UK without charge, without serving a sentence, and in relation to an extradition which is political in every respect, from the charges against him, which are political offences, the Espionage Act, to the content of his publications, which exposed wrongdoing by states or state actors in the context of war. We don't have any indication of when the High Court will deliver its decision. What we do know for a fact is that if the High Court decides that Julian will not have a full appeal, that will be the UK's domestic remedies exhausted, and that means that the UK will move to extradite Julian. It could be within 24 hours, but anywhere between 24 hours and 28 days. And Julian will be then seek protection from the European Court of Human Rights, but that is not a right. It is up to the European Court of Human Rights to decide. Well, Julian is deteriorated physically. His mental health is under a constant strain, and it changes from day to day. Some days are extremely difficult. Some days he cannot sleep. So it's impossible to generalize. It is a constant struggle, and because he is indefinitely in a high security prison so far for 5 years. It was the Trump administration that brought the case against Julian. It was the Trump administration that charged him in 2018. There was no charges in the United States between 2010 and 2018. And so Donald Trump is a known actor. He's a known actor for being unpredictable. So what we do know is that he already previously allowed this case to proceed, and the Biden administration has continued it, even though the Obama administration had made a deliberate decision not to pursue this case because of the implications for the rest of the press. This is the first time that a publisher has been openly accused for journalism. Julian is not a whistleblower. The whistleblower was Chelsea Manning. She was the source, and she gave Julian information that was of public interest, and Julian published it alongside other journalists and newspapers. And so it is a departure from the principle of press freedom. It is a departure which creates a precedent in which the press is fair game. The press can be pursued criminally for publishing the truth. It's a game changer, and there's no coming back from this unless the US drops the charges against Julian. Whatever happens in Julian's case, unless there is a pardon or dropping the charges, it is catastrophic for the press.
I think it is no coincidence that at a time where Europe and the Middle East has been in a belligerent state, the likes of which we have never seen in modern times, the man who did the most to expose war, the reality and the brutality of war, has been sitting in a prison cell, unable to do his work, silenced. These two things hang together. They're part of the same phenomenon. Our access to the truth is ultimately what is being attacked. Julian's imprisonment is the evidence, alongside the impunity that we see, that the justice system is not working. In fact, the justice system is being instrumentalized, is being used as a weapon against those who tell the truth. Julian's imprisonment serves a purpose. The purpose is to intimidate, to bully, to discourage journalists from telling the truth and to keeping the public ignorant, because an ignorant public is a public that can be manipulated, and manipulating the public is essential to further war. The ripple effects of Julian's incarceration are felt everywhere, here in Italy. The signal that is being sent by imprisoning Julian is that journalists are in a more precarious state, that it is easier to harass, that even in Western liberal democracies that are like to talk to them about themselves as the shining examples of freedom, a journalist, publisher is being punished for telling the truth and for exposing state-sponsored criminality. And that has been allowed to unfold for years and years. We have to be clear about who the criminals are. Just because they are using the justice system to imprison him, it doesn't mean that justice or the law, international law, is on their side. Julian is being persecuted and his life is at risk. And because this case is political, support through an award like the one today, which Julian is very proud to be a recipient, are so important. It is the signaling that Julian has to be freed that will ultimately free him. And I know that Julian is very fond of Perugia, where he has been once before. He was telling me about Perugia when I told him I was coming here. I saw him yesterday morning, and he's, of course, fell in love with the city, as I think anyone who comes here falls in love with the city. And I look forward to the day, I hope soon, where we can come together to Perugia in freedom.